NTD hears about his legacy from an NBC page who worked alongside a star. A new speed record for climbing Yosemite National Park's iconic El Capitan. Just how impressive is the record? We'll find out from a professional climber. A young American growing to be a promising tennis star. The young athlete won his first 4 title at the Japan Open. Those stories and more coming up on NTD tonight.
Of people looting and vandalizing a 7-Eleven in Rio Linda. The incident happened on October 8th after a nearby sideshow. The police believe some of the suspects are from the San Francisco Bay Area. They're asking for tips and offering up to $1,000 for info leading to any arrests. The public can call 1-800-AA-CRIME. Not too far away in San Francisco, both the CVS and Walgreens will close stores located downtown within the coming month. Specific reasons have not been cited yet for these closures. However, Walgreens has noted retail theft and cost-cutting before with previous closings. Rite Aid also announced that it's closing 154 stores nationwide, including 34 in California. The company filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy last week. All of this comes after recent data was released by the FBI. It shows that violent crime in California rose by 8.5% from 2020 to 2022, while in the nation as a whole it dropped by 3.5%. Reporting in California, Jason Blair, NTD News.
California.
Newsom's recent veto of a bill aimed at limiting harmful chemicals in synthetic lawns. It highlights California's evolving stance on plastic turf. While it was once promoted to conserve water during droughts, concerns about perfluoroalkyl and polyfluoroalkyl substances, also known as PFAS chemicals, and Bepsinol A, known as BPA, leaching from synthetic turf have shifted legislative priorities. Research suggests these substances have been associated with a range of long-term health conditions, including cancer, diabetes, and neurological disorders. Newsom's veto, while expressing support for the bill's intent, raised concerns about enforceability, but he says he's committed to exploring alternative methods to regulate these chemicals. Some
missing and hostages.
Through this intelligence gathering process, Israel updated the total number of hostages taken by Hamas to 222, now 220 after the latest hostages were released. Israeli President Isaac Herzog, in an exclusive interview on Sky News, also shared some alarming intelligence discovered on the body of a Hamas terrorist.
This is material which was found on the body of one of those sadistic villains. It's Al-Qaeda material, official Al-Qaeda material. And in this material, there were instructions how to produce chemical weapons.
If confirmed, this would be a clear violation of the Geneva Convention and international law, which strictly forbids the use of chemical weapons. As of Monday, over 1,400 Israelis have been killed, mostly civilians who were killed by Hamas terrorists while attending a music festival. And according to the Hamas-run health ministry, more than 4,600 Gazans have been killed.
California Governor Gavin Newsom also visited Israel with efforts to send aid to Israel and Gaza. He also visits Hong Kong, where he tells the public in a climate change talk that California will always be a partner. NTD's David Lamb reports.
California Governor Gavin Newsom visited Israel recently before heading to China. Newsom assured during his week-long trip to China that his state will always be a partner on climate issues, no matter how the U.S. presidential election turns out.
The worst polluters on the planet.
If you're a Republican, you're going to have someone that's there for the long haul on these issues, that believes foundationally in these issues. I want you to know, regardless of what happens nationally, subnationally, you have a partner in the state of California.
Newsom's visit to University of Hong Kong on Monday comes as U.S.-China relations witnessed a sharp decline in recent years due to trade disputes, U.S. support for self-governing Taiwan, and
in many ways, the world is more endangered today than it has been in my lifetime. So the question is America going to lead? I think the the Biden administration sent the wrong signal when they had the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan. I think that was like giving a green light to Putin to go into Ukraine. And we see that Iran, the principal sponsor of terrorism, sending drones to the Russians and attacking Hezbollah, in this particular situation, Hamas, attacking the Israelis with drones. So it's all connected. That you can't separate out one part of it and say, oh, we're only going to deal with this. It's all connected.
So the White House is now coming forward with a $105 billion request, and they are linking all these things: Israel, Ukraine, Taiwan, the southern border. A number of your GOP colleagues object to that, but let's start with Senator Rand Paul. He says this:
our deficit this year will exceed $1.5 trillion. Borrowing money from China to send it to Ukraine makes no sense.
So what is your answer to that? This idea of taking money from somebody who doesn't wish us the best in all circumstances in order to pay for Ukraine?
Well, he's certainly right that the deficit is entirely too big. And it frankly was expanded during the previous administration as well. So I think neither side has done a very good job of dealing with the deficit. However, you have to respect things that actually exist that are a threat to the United States. The Iranians are a threat to us as well. And so this is an emergency. It's an emergency that we step up and deal with this axis of evil. China, Russia, Iran, because it's an immediate threat to the United States.
It wasn't clear that he would be a congressional member when she started that relationship. So I mean that's remarkable. It's a remarkable level of effort in areas which don't, necessarily seem to be that important. But I guess maybe one day will, right?
One day will, but one level served the other. When people try to understand, okay, who is that person? Well, I know him, the mayor, and you can talk to him, and she's been in touch with him, and you say, oh yeah, I like her, she's very, very good, and stuff like that. So one side can validate and constantly like this reinforce that, yeah, you should be doing business with that person and everything. But again, I return to what I was saying. They're very, very patient. They're very, very patient. They have time on their side, and they will take time to work and do what they need to do. And that can take years and years and years. But their determination and their focus is remarkable. And that makes it extremely difficult. There is a categories, and the Chinese have a lot of very poetic name to name certain things, like the sea turtle for the Chinese who lived abroad for many years and now are returning to China, or the bottom fish feeder. The bottom fish feeders are basically people who are sent from China to come and work in the Western world or live in the Western world. And for the first years that they will be there, they will do nothing, absolutely nothing. They have to be perfect citizens for 5 years, for 10 years. And then one day they receive a phone call and boom, they are activated. But for 5 or 10 years, they've done nothing, not even getting a parking ticket. They probably got their security clearance. They probably went up the ladder into their company or into the government. And suddenly they are activated. When the security service or the police try to do a background check, they find absolutely nothing. So they are extremely, extremely deep undercover agent in that perspective, and that makes it really, really difficult. And again, mind-boggling for the Western agency to try to understand that they would put so much effort and commitment in staying in the role as a double agent for so long.
Absolutely fascinating conversation. I want to direct people to an interview I did some months back. We'll link it here, that I did with Scott McGregor, one of the authors of The Mosaic Effect, of course. And, maybe as we finish up, if you could just...
The Middle East expands to include Iran. Suddenly, you're going to have to send an awful lot of the U.S. military there to cover it. effects on the global economy will be immediate and striking. We haven't even talked about Asia yet. So America is being sort of forced to look at a number of very serious wars at the same time and to be involved in them to some degree or the other, and any degree is too much.
More on Newsom's remarks coming later on China in Focus. As for Beijing, its nuclear weapons stockpile is growing faster than Pentagon projections. According to the Defense Department estimates, it has over 500 warheads under its belt as of May. Former President George W. Bush used the phrase axis of evil 12 years ago in the wake of 9/11. He was referring to North Korea, Iran, and Iraq at the time. Authoritarian axis, a powerful phrase now making a return as global concerns rise. Earlier this year, Andrea Kendall Taylor, a senior fellow at the Center for a New American Security think tank, described China, Russia, and Iran as the new authoritarian axis. Here's more on her remarks.
On the surface, China and Iran appears unlikely allies. The Chinese Communist Party pushes an atheist society, while Iran is a strictly Islamic country. Senior fellow at the Center for New American Security, Andrea Kendall Taylor shed light on what led to the partnership and warned of a magnified effect, saying, by working together, the challenges they pose collectively add up to be more than the sum of their parts in any one individual challenge if they were working on their own. China and Iran have a common enemy, the United States. What's more, China needs Iranian oil. The latest milestone in their friendship stretches back to 2021, when China and Iran signed a strategic partnership agreement. The whopping 25-year deal included both economic and military cooperation. It's also part of Beijing's Belt and Road Initiative, a massive infrastructure project believed to spread Beijing's influence outside its borders. Chinese media commented on the agreement at the time, saying the two countries share an adversary, the group of Western powers led by the United States. How else do China and Iran help each other? One of the most important ways Beijing supports Tehran is through buying up its oil. The U.S. imposed sanctions on Iran's oil sector in 2020 for backing the Quds Force, a terrorist organization in the Middle East. But China continued its fuel purchases, meaning the money kept flowing too. The Chinese ambassador to Iran said in 2021 that China was the only country that still bought oil from Iran. According to Kepler, a platform for global trade intelligence, almost 90% of Iranian oil went to China as of last month. Officially, China denies buying the fuel from Iran. Besides oil, the two countries are believed to collaborate on weapons, too. Reports have accused Beijing of helping Iran's nuclear program by transferring technology and equipment. That's despite Western attempts to rein in the country's warheads. In 2015, Iran signed a deal with several world powers, including the U.S. and China.
Russian President Putin in Beijing. China declared its friendship with Russia had no limits. That friendship was partially linked to energy. They signed a number of agreements during the visit, including a new gas deal. Under it, Russia would supply over 350 billion cubic feet of gas per year to China via a new pipeline from Russia's Far East. The Ukraine war boosted energy cooperation between the two countries even further. China imported a record volume of Russian oil in the first half of this year, while the West reduced energy imports from Russia and sanctioned the country. The result? China, as the world's second largest economy, could stockpile cheaper oil. The two countries started their energy partnership about 10 years ago. In 2014, China and Russia signed a gas deal for $400 billion over 30 years, bringing them closer together as they look to counter the West. As for the Ukraine war, China has not condemned Russia's invasion so far. The U.S. believes China is willing to supply weapons to Moscow. Intelligence reports cite a leaked document as saying China planned to send military equipment to Russia disguised as civilian goods. Beijing denied the accusation. A string of in a collision. The Philippines reports that a Chinese Coast Guard ship engaged in dangerous blocking maneuvers that led to a crash with one of its ships. Let's zoom in.
China and the Philippines traded accusations over a collision in disputed waters of the South China Sea on Sunday as Chinese vessels blocked Philippine boats supplying forces there. Armed forces of the Philippines released this video showing the Chinese vessel grazing the hull of the Philippines boat. The collision occurred during the Philippines' resupply mission to troops stationed on a rusted World War II-era transport ship used as an outpost on the shoal. China's Coast Guard said they were lawfully blocking the boat from transporting illegal construction materials to the warship. Manila responded by condemning in the strongest degree the dangerous blocking maneuvers of the Chinese vessel.
We are here to really decry, in the strongest possible terms, this egregious violation and illegal act within the 200 nautical mile exclusive economic zone, and the obfuscation of the truth by China's distorting the story to fit its own ends.
The Filipinos have been incredibly brave and really set the standard for what countries ought to do when faced with Chinese pressure like this. They have publicized exactly what the Chinese are doing.
The U.S. sided with the Philippines, offering support to its ally. In a statement on Sunday, the U.S. State Department said China's actions amounted to repeated harassment in the South China Sea and that they were dangerous and unlawful.
Trying to
Beijing
invoke
claims
something.
sovereignty over almost the entire South China Sea, including parts of the exclusive economic zones of Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, and Vietnam. The Permanent Court of Arbitration in 2016 said China's claims had no legal basis.